Good afternoon. What began as a call about a disturbance at a North York home has become an investigation into how a man died.
The 32-year-old died after being tasered by police as they responded to a call about a man armed with a knife. CTV's John Musselman is on the scene this afternoon on Parkside Drive in the Keele and Finch area. John, what can you tell us?
Well, we can tell you that police are inside this home behind me right now, Michelle. Forensic officers are taking photographs. Here's what we know. We'll show you some video from yesterday afternoon. Police were called here around 5:40 p.m. It was considered a disturbance call. When police got here, there was an interaction with a man inside the home. Police then used a conducted energy weapon on that man. We're told that he was then put in handcuffs, but then went into medical distress. CPR was performed, EMS was called, but the man was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, the SIU has been called in to take over this investigation. We know the home is sealed off. Now, a number of things will be looked at here on what may have caused this man's death. Was it the conducted energy weapon? Was this man under any influence of drugs, or was it a physical issue? These are all things that will be looked at by the SIU, but there were indications, the SIU is still trying to confirm this, that the man may have had a weapon. We spoke to the SIU and to a neighbor. Here's what they had to tell us.
At this time, I can say there was a knife recovered at the scene. However, how that knife may or may not have played a role is under investigation. As I said, we have not yet reviewed the body-worn camera footage, and witnesses are still being interviewed at this time.
I saw someone across the street on the veranda. Looked like he was banging on the door or something. It wasn't until then the police started showing up, because they pulled into my driveway with the lights flashing and then backed out and started parking, that I got up to look, and that's when I saw two of the residents there, they're renters. One was shirtless and a woman. The police were already talking to them.
Now, we have learned from neighbors that a number of people have been living in this home. They consider most of the people living in the home to be tenants of the home, more than 8 or 9 at some point, one neighbor told us. So we don't have an identity on the victim yet. That is all still under investigation as the SIU takes over this case. Reporting live from the scene, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. Well, it's happened again. The automated camera aimed at catching speeding vehicles on Parkside Drive has been cut down once again.
It was toppled over the weekend, and local residents say it's a sign more needs to be done to tackle the problem of cars going too fast. CTV's Janice Golding is following this story, and Janice, it's happened yet again.
Hi, yes. Well, area residents say they're scratching their heads. They just can't understand why police can't catch the culprit or culprits behind this. This sheared-off pipe is where the Parkside Drive speed camera once hung. But sometime late Saturday or early Sunday morning, it was cut down for the 7th time in under a year.
I don't know who did it, but they're clearly unhappy.
Parkside Drive, which is on the eastern border of Hyde Park, has long been flagged by residents as a high-risk speeding corridor. In fact, the camera was installed in 2021 after a speeding driver rear-ended a stopped vehicle, killing 71-year-old Valdemar Avila and 69-year-old Fatima Avila. The street is now marked with community safety zone and school crossing signs, as well as a sign indicating there's a municipal speed camera in use.
I mean, people did die here, so I get why the camera's there.
Kind of getting tired of it, actually, because it is a dangerous street when people speed down here all the time, so obviously the camera's needed.
This latest act of what police call mischief over 5,000 comes just days after CTV News Toronto obtained new footage showing the camera being cut down in real time.
They've tried nothing other than the speed camera that keeps getting vandalized. There are solutions to address Parkside speeding problem, but they don't seem to have much interest in implementing those solutions.
Faraz Galizada, a member of the community group Safe Parkside, has called on the city to do more. He wants the roadway redesigned to include sidewalks on both sides of the roadway and infrastructure to make it safer for cyclists.
The City of Toronto requires sidewalks on both sides of the street for arterial roads. Unfortunately, Parkside Drive does not meet that requirement. It doesn't even meet the minimum width for the single sidewalk it does have.
Last November, the city approved a redesign for the road that included both bike lanes and traffic calming measures. But those plans are up in the air, given new provincial legislation that prevents municipalities from removing traffic lanes to make way for bike lanes without approval from Queen's Park. In the meantime, area residents say they're hoping police can catch the culprit.
I'm astounded that they haven't been able to figure out who's doing this. It's been a repeated offender.
It's just weird that they keep doing it. You'd think they'd get caught eventually, right?
Parkside Drive speed camera has issued more than 70,000 tickets, generating over $8 million in fines for the city. Now, I can tell you that this camera is not particularly popular among some motorists. One guy just drove by as we were going live to tell us speed cameras boo. We also understand that the actual camera went missing. We saw city staff searching through the bushes alongside the roadway here, but they were not able to locate it this morning. The City of Toronto, for its part, says that it condemns any theft or vandalism on these speed enforcement devices, which they say are installed to protect the vulnerable. Reporting live, I'm Janice Golding. Now back to Nathan.
Thank you, Janice. And we have more news in a moment, but first, here's a live look at the city this afternoon. There's a shot of Nathan Phillips Square. Just a few clouds to start the work week, and you might need a light jacket if you're heading outside. But more good news, we've got lots to look forward to this week, weather-wise. Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. Lots of sunshine this week.
Yeah, dare I say, Nathan, it's a little quiet over here in the Weather Center for this week, but I don't think anyone will be complaining. It's also the time of year where we start off the day with some brisk, cool conditions, but by the afternoon, we're comfortably warmer. So it's 16 degrees right now. We started off the day in Toronto just shy of 9 degrees. We've got a westerly wind right now, fairly light. There's the satellite and radar, mix of sun and cloud. If there's any cloud out there, it's fair weather cloudiness. Here's today at a glance. Afternoon high 20 degrees. That's a little cooler than normal, but much of this week we will be seasonal or slightly above. We'll take you through the 7-day forecast coming up, but for now, Michelle, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. And still to come, Angelina Jolie among the A-listers on the red carpet at TIFF over the weekend. Our Andrea Case was there. She'll tell you how the weekend went, and we'll also have what's to come today. In Saint Martin, a frightening hard landing for a flight that left Toronto for the sunny destination.
The emergency slides were deployed as the plane was evacuated yesterday. CTV's Raheem Ladani has more details on this. Raheem.
Hey, Nathan. I mean, this must have been a terrifying experience for those on board as they were arriving in Saint Martin at the Princess Juliana International Airport yesterday. We're going to show you the video so you can see the hard landing and just how quickly this all happened. This Boeing 737-800 aircraft is preparing to land around 1:30 local time. To give you some context, you've probably seen videos of these planes land at this airport in the past because this airport is quite picturesque. People flock to Maho Beach to watch planes fly over top of them. And you can see in this video, the aircraft makes contact with the runway and tips to one side and appears to show collapsed landing gear on the right side. 164 people were on board and evacuated safely. 3 people were taken for medical assistance, but the airport says there were no injuries. We've also been told there was no fire at the hard landing. However, contact with the runway did cause damage to the right wing. WestJet says it's still awaiting confirmation as to how this happened. But I did speak with a former captain this morning who shared some insight. Take a listen.
The last 15, 20 feet of the landing approach, you're going to flare the airplane out, where you raise the nose slightly, increase the lift on the wing, slows the descent rate. If you do that too early, you float down the runway. And if you do it too late, well, I think you can kind of see what happens or what may happen. And we've all had, I mean, nobody gets a smooth landing every day. And boy, I've certainly dropped a few in my time. There's lots of funny stories about that, you know. And this really didn't look to me like it was any worse than a lot that I've seen until you saw the actual response, you know, the damage to the airplane and what happened. So the video really doesn't tell you everything you need to know about what the descent rate was, what the airspeed was, and so on and so forth. We need a lot more information before we really understand what may have happened.
Now, at this point, the airport's single runway is still closed. That's causing a logistical challenge for many passengers, including a Toronto family that's trying to get home. They were supposed to fly out yesterday. That didn't happen, and we're waiting to hear how WestJet or the airport will compensate those passengers. Reporting live, I'm Raheem Ladani. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Raheem. Fire crews are on scene of an apartment fire in the High Park area.
It broke out in an apartment building this morning. This is a look at the scene on High Park Avenue from our CTV News chopper, and flames can be spotted coming from a unit on the 6th floor, and there's a lot of black smoke. There are no reports of any injuries from this fire. Meanwhile, at Queen and Dufferin, a tractor trailer slammed into a bus shelter during morning rush. The CTV News chopper was over this scene as well. One person in a vehicle was injured, but there was no one in the bus shelter.
Now to day 5 of the Toronto International Film Festival.
And a film that is a passion project for former Raptors president Masai Ujiri. CTV's Sean Leithong is going to be attending the screening of Origin, the story of the Basketball Africa League. Tell us more, Sean.
Well, it's an interesting league that popped up about 6 years ago, with the first season coming in 2021, Michelle. The Basketball Africa League was the dream of people like Masai Ujiri in coordination with the NBA to bring basketball across Africa. We've got a little preview. Take a listen.
We are going to tell a story. Our story.
We will be announcing a basketball league in Africa.
We are about to start the first BAL Basketball Africa League.
So for those of you who may not know, the Basketball Africa League has 12 teams. It's across the entire continent in countries like Nigeria, Kenya, Egypt, Rwanda, and it's about breaking down barriers and the social impact of the game itself. Now, the documentary features NBA players like Steph Curry, former U.S. President Barack Obama, of course, Masai Ujiri, and former player Joakim Noah. It tells this story hoping to bring people together and showing just what basketball can do and how powerful sport can be, not only for just people's excitement level, but on a social context as well. But also, the film festival is still chugging along. As we know, Festival Street has opened up, but this morning there were still plenty of people lining up to see the stars, plenty of people joining rush lines, and this is when we get to really see the people who are dedicated to the films that they want to attend. We spoke to a few earlier today. Here's what they had to say.
Well, I had heard it was the People's Festival. I heard it was a very approachable film festival for people who, really liked movies but weren't necessarily in the industry. So I did a lot of research. I found that, if you couldn't get tickets, you could always rush movies. And this week I'm seeing 16 movies for a pretty reasonable price. So I felt that it was a really approachable film festival, and I wanted to be able to jump in and see stuff before other people.
So TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival. It's great if you want to come meet some stars, see some stars.
I got a picture with Sydney Sweeney. I got Chloe Zhao to sign my ticket for Hamnet, and that movie was absolutely amazing. I didn't go see the movie. I was actually waiting in line for Knives Out, and I just left the line to go to the back of the venue, and I waited for maybe 20 minutes, and I got lucky, and she took a picture.
And there are a number of big red carpets today. 2 of them include The Smashing Machine with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. That's coming up a little bit later on. Andrea Case will be there for that, and she had a big weekend. I'll throw it back to you now. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leithong.
That is right, Sean. Thank you. Have fun today. It was a huge weekend for TIFF. So many stars. And on Sunday, one of the biggest Hollywood stars walked the red carpet.
Angelina Jolie was in town for the premiere of her French film Couture. CTV's Andrea Kay spoke with Jolie, as well as the cast of Hamnet, a film inspired by one of Shakespeare's hit plays.
One of the biggest stars in the world descended on King Street and the Toronto International Film Festival for the world premiere of her latest project. Angelina Jolie stars in and co-produced Couture, a French film set in the Parisian fashion industry. So it's fitting I had to ask, who is she wearing?
I didn't have a dress, so my friend, who was a beautiful designer, she gave me a coat to wear, and so so there it is.
Her character Maxine's arc seemed to have mirrored Jolie's real life. Both are film directors with a growing family, divorced, and diagnosed with a serious medical condition.
We can too often define others and define ourselves by our illnesses or those things about us that are broken, and we forget that they're also the ways we can learn or come back alive or fight through, that it's a choice.
Tell me a story.
What story would you like?
Something that moves you.
In the film world, the battle to secure a film's world premiere is something all hosts vie for. But actor Paul Mescal says seeing the film is the thing regardless of who gets it first.
Exactly. And it felt really special, and I feel like Telluride and TIFF share that, where it's like,
it feels like a pub, like it feels like community cinema. That's so important to me. Also, the context of this story, like what the film explores at the end, is the importance of art being experienced in community.
Hamlet was co-written and directed by Oscar winner Chloe Zhao. It's a story of William Shakespeare's son, Hamlet, and his death at a young age. In his grief, the bard goes on to write the play Hamlet. On paper, it would seem the film is about Shakespeare, but its anchor is his wife, Anne Hathaway, played by Jessie Buckley.
That's what doing this film reminded me why we have cinema, why we have theatre, why we have stories, and that it's more than just escapism. It's actually a vessel to contain the things that are too hard to hold ourselves.
Hamlet will be in theaters on November 27th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
In Israel, 6 people have been killed in a shooting at a bus stop in Jerusalem. Israeli police say 2 Palestinian gunmen from the West Bank opened fire at a bus stop in North Jerusalem. The attackers were shot by a security official and a civilian. It happened at a major intersection leading to a Jewish settlement in East Jerusalem. Paramedics who responded to the attack say the area was covered in broken glass, with wounded people lying on the sidewalk near the bus. This was one of the deadliest attacks on the city in years.
We did assist with, transporting some of the patients that were severely wounded to the nearby hospitals. And you have the Zaka team on scene as well, who is taking care, ensuring the proper respect for the patients that unfortunately didn't make it.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu visited the site of the attack, saying Israeli forces were pursuing suspects who aided the attackers. The Palestinian militant group Hamas has not claimed responsibility for the attack, but praised the 2 attackers. To Russia's war on Ukraine now, the Kremlin this morning said no sanctions would ever force Russia to change course in the war. The statement coming just hours after the United States and the European Union indicated they are considering additional economic restrictions. On Sunday, U.S. President Trump said he's ready to move to a second phase of sanctioning Russia. Trump also indicating he plans to speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin over the next couple of days.
All this coming after Russia unleashed its largest air assault on Ukraine since the war began. More than 800 drones and missiles were fired across Ukraine over the weekend, killing at least 4 people and injuring dozens more. Ukrainian forces say most of the drones and missiles were shot down. Canada, France, and the UK are among those condemning the attack, which also damaged a key government building. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke about Putin's endgame on ABC's This Week.
To my mind, Putin's goal is to occupy Ukraine. This is to destroy us, occupied.
Zelensky said Russian strikes on Kyiv's main government building are a ruthless attack and vows an appropriate response. And Prime Minister Mark Carney's in St. John's, Newfoundland this hour, where he's expected to announce new details on Ottawa's plan for regional tariff relief for Atlantic Canada. CTV's Colton Prale is standing by live with the latest. Colton, what do you know about the federal government's relief measures?
Yeah, Nathan, that announcement getting underway right now, actually, as we speak. But this is all in relation to what we saw the federal government announce on Friday, a massive $5 billion strategic response fund specifically meant to help the industries most impacted by the tariff dispute and the trade war. It's steel, auto, and aluminum, but also built in with flexibility for high-value industries as well, allowing the federal government to help out in areas like aerospace or AI, for example. Both of those have been mentioned. On top of this fund, they unveiled a Buy Canadian policy, and they also unveiled a smaller fund, a $1 billion fund for their regional response. This one targeting specifically small and medium businesses, projects up to about $20 million in scale. And the idea here is that, for example, an auto manufacturer might be able to shift their production line a little bit to incorporate different styles of parts, or perhaps an aluminum factory in Quebec could start building tallboy cans that are currently being produced in the United States and sell those into the Canadian market. That's That's the idea behind this fund, that it would allow producers to vary not only their exports, but the products they're exporting themselves. And so this is being framed by Ottawa really as a transitionary period from a north-south economy, one that primarily crosses the 49th parallel, into a Canadian economy. And the details we're seeing announced today, whether it was Minister Joly in Montreal, Minister Haidu in Thunder Bay a little earlier on this morning, or what we're expecting to hear from Mark Carney in just a few moments' time on the East Coast, is where that money is going. We're seeing in that billion-dollar fund, $3.5 million being dedicated to lumber in Northern Ontario. We're seeing that aluminum is going to be one of the larger elements of that $5 billion fund, where some of this money is going to. And so the federal government really focusing on a shift and laying the groundwork to allow these companies to compete, not only when it comes to Canada's defence industrial policy that Ottawa plans to announce over the coming weeks and months, but also in the major projects that they plan to announce over the next couple of weeks as well.
And what about reaction from industry leaders so far?
So far, especially in areas like steel and aluminum, it's been positive. They're certainly looking forward to those larger projects, which will actually be the bulk of what helps them bear the brunt of this. Obviously, the $5 billion and the $1 billion fund, both of those are beneficial in the short term, but really it's going to be major Canadian products and projects specifically that allow them to carry the weight and you know, struggle through or try to make through this process when they don't have access to the same kind of market. What's going to be interesting from the Prime Minister as he speaks here is how he responds to areas like fisheries, for example, that already capture a large portion of the Canadian market and don't have quite as much of a much more area to access compared to not having the U.S. market.
All right, CTV's Colton Prale in Ottawa. Thank you.
Anytime.
You know, you brought Canadians from...
All right, to other news now. 3 homes in Vaughan were targeted by gunfire in less than 24 hours over the weekend, and police believe the same vehicle was involved in all 3. On Sunday morning, York Regional Police responded to shots fired at a home near Pottery Place and Blue Willow Drive around 4:20 a.m. Police found a vehicle with bullet holes, but no injuries were reported. A male suspect was seen leaving the area in a dark-colored car.
And less than half an hour later, police were called to a home near Via Romano Boulevard and Allison Ann Way. A vehicle that also appears to have been hit by gunfire was seen out front of this home. No injuries were reported in this incident either.
Well, we heard something last night. It was after 4, before 5. It was a loud banging noise. I've never heard gunshots, so I didn't know what it was. We looked out the window later on, and we saw all the police cars.
This one, five doors from our house. You know, my kids are older, so I'm not overly concerned that they're playing but still, you know, that close to our house. And I don't know much about the reasoning behind it. You know, I don't want to speculate. I don't know if it's targeted, random, whatever. But one thing I do know, it's a rental, so who knows?
And investigators believe that shooting is linked to one Saturday morning on Farrell Road near Bathurst and Major Mackenzie. Police say a house was struck multiple times around 6:20 a.m. Saturday. Fortunately, no one was hurt. In all 3 instances, police believe a man fled the scene in a dark-colored sedan. Vaughan Mayor Stephen Del Duca spoke about the violence.
I keep telling people Vaughan is a safe community, but there is that feeling like things have changed. That's why we need tougher laws. That's why we need real bail conditions. We need these criminals, literally these scumbags, off of our streets and behind bars where they belong. And as mayor of this city, I'll make sure we keep funding YRP, that they have the money so that they can keep hiring up, so that they have the resources and the staff. But I'm going to keep pushing the federal government in particular and Premier Ford, with whom I've spoken about this, and he is a willing partner to make sure we get this done the right way.
Anyone with video surveillance or dash camera footage of the incidents is asked to contact police. Well, big development on the labor front. Air Canada flight attendants rejected the company's wage offer, with more than 99% saying no. CTV's Scott Hurst is following the outcome of the vote. He joins us now live. Scott, flight attendants resoundingly said no to Air Canada's latest offer. Help us understand why this deal was not for them.
Michelle, you mentioned resoundingly, overwhelmingly rejecting this contract offer that was on the table. As you said, 99% voting against ratifying the company's wage offer. So it appears more turbulence ahead between Air Canada and the union representing some 10,000 flight attendants, as it was announced over the weekend that flight attendants had in fact voted to reject this contract proposal. Even with the wage proposals and the hard-fought push for ground pay, the union argues that many of Air Canada flight attendants would still earn less than federal minimum wage. And so to put this into perspective, let's break down the offer that was on the table, the offer that was being voted on by union members. Air Canada offered a first-year increase of 12% pay raise for workers of 5 years experience or less, plus an initial 8% for more senior flight attendants. Then there were annual wage increases of 3%, 2.5%, and 2.7% over the remainder of the 4-year contract. Plus, the union had secured so-called ground pay, a percentage of their pay for an hour or more of work, depending on the aircraft on the ground, as that was, Michelle, one of the main sticking points. Now, in a statement announcing the contract rejection, the union also called into question the role of the government in all of this, calling it corrosive in its reaction to quickly force union members back to work. And of course, Michelle, you remember last month, the union members defied that order, and over the 3-day strike, tens of thousands of passengers daily being impacted significantly when the flights were grounded for several days, forcing passengers to be stranded or scramble to find other alternatives over the time that these flights were all grounded.
That was quite the mess, and no doubt people who were maybe caught up in it or others who have flights coming are wondering, where does this dispute go from here? Will there be further strike action?
So, Michelle, specifically for passengers, for those who have tickets coming up on Air Canada, they won't see any impact. According to the airline, both sides have agreed that there will be no labor disruption, and therefore there won't be any strike or lockout. So anyone with tickets on Air Canada, the flights will continue to operate. So no doubt a sigh of relief for passengers. What happens next for the airline and the negotiating team? Well, in the meantime, the issue of wages will now proceed to mediation and then arbitration if necessary. So despite the wage hikes that the union was able to get from the airline and the gains it made on the sticking point of ground pay, the union saying in a statement, Michelle, that this is only the beginning, so we'll have to continue to follow what happens next between the airline and the negotiating team, and if they can come to an agreement that the flight attendants, the 10,000 plus union members, can in fact vote to ratify.
Scott Hurst in the CTV National Newsroom, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Over to you.
Well, I know this is going to feel a little bit early for some in the season, but we have a frost advisory in place for parts of our province. This is for overnight tonight and into tomorrow morning. The Algonquin Highlands, portions of Muskoka, and sections of eastern Ontario. This is where temperatures could be quite cool overnight tonight. Here's an update on how much rainfall we've had so far in September. There isn't a whole lot of it in store for this week. Waking up tomorrow morning, it'll be chilly once again, but by the middle of the week, a little bit of heat is going to build back in. We'll take a look at that 7-day forecast on the other side of this break here on CTV News at noon.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400 from your screen to ours. Text 10400.
Happy Monday to all. We have beautiful sunshine today. Yes, it's fresh, but I think it's not too bad because this is the time of year where you can wear a little bit of fall clothes, but you could also do shorts and a sweater, and there's a lot to like.
Yeah, you're not sweating a lot, you're not boiling hot, you're kind of warm enough. It's kind of in a sweet spot right now.
Layers, that's the key word, right? You can lose the sweater as you head into the afternoon, and I think we'll be doing that a few times this week because even though the mornings are a little bit cool, the afternoons, aside from today, are going to be seasonal or even slightly above. Bit of a hint of humidity returning midweek as well. Weather is brought to you by the Presler Law Firm. Injury lawyers, you don't pay unless they win. And not only do we have pleasant temperatures, but as mentioned, we've got gorgeous sunshine out there too. This is what it looked like a little earlier this morning as our CTV News chopper was flying high above our city. Gorgeous shot of the skyline there and a beautiful blue sky to go along with it. Current temperatures, it is right now 17 degrees in the city of Toronto, 18 in the Windsor area, 14 for you in Muskoka. Yes, we have some frost advisories in place for parts of our province. The daytime temperatures, not so bad. It's those overnight lows and what we're waking up to that create the concern for this point in the growing season. Our forecast daytime high here in Toronto is 20 degrees. 22 is the norm for this time of year. Don't think we have to worry about breaking the daily record for this day of 35 degrees. Some might consider that nice, but it won't be happening. Here's your red carpet forecast into the evening. Clear skies, calm winds. It just becomes a little bit cool, especially after the sun sets. There's our forecast low for tonight. Once again, about 9 degrees, but 4 in places like Waterloo and Peterborough. Hello, Bancroft. 2 is your forecast overnight low tonight. Tomorrow, if you're hoping to get in maybe a round of golf, it's looking like a lovely day, 23 degrees. Seasonal, light winds for the most part, and condition-wise, it is wall-to-wall sunshine right across the province. In fact, very few clouds. A couple of clouds are going to sneak their way back into our forecast for Wednesday. Let me show you the current satellite and radar. Nothing of note. This disturbance to the north stays away. So too does that one out over the Atlantic. It's high pressure for us, and that means a pretty quiet pattern for this week, which I don't think anyone's complaining about. It's nice to enjoy many sunny days. I'm simply setting this forecast radar in motion to show you there's a bit of an increase in cloud on Wednesday, but this also looks like maybe our warmest day of the week. Back into mainly sunny skies for Thursday, and then your 7-day forecast is looking like this. So 25 degrees will feel more like 28 on Wednesday, 24 degrees for Thursday. Looking ahead to the weekend, it's not bad, although we are keeping an eye on Sunday at this point for the chance of showers. That's your look at the forecast. Carry the fire for a world free from the fear of cancer with the Princess Margaret Home Lottery. Buy early, win more. Over 17,000 prizes will be awarded, valued at more than $12 million. That includes a $7 million grand prize featuring an Oakville show home built by Gata Homes, plus $500,000 cash. The home is awarded fully furnished, professionally designed and landscaped, or the $3 million early bird prize package, including a lakefront Muskoka cottage, plus $50,000 cash. There's the $1.2 million bonus prize package with a luxury Yorkville condo, $50,000 cash, and a pair of season tickets for both the Maple Leafs and Raptors, plus the VIP prize, a BMW and Bali, or take $100,000 cash. Now, if you buy your ticket before September 12th, you will be entered to win one of 3 loyalty cash prizes of $25,000. Get your tickets today at princessmargaretlotto.com or by calling 1-866-631-1234. That's the weather. Stay with us. CTV News. We'll be right back.
A new study shows when it comes to keeping off extra pounds, the number of calories you eat might not be the only factor to consider about your foods. Researchers found that people eating the same number of calories but processed foods instead of unprocessed foods were putting on significantly more weight. And for more on this, we're joined by CTV science and tech specialist Dan Riskin. So there are good calories and bad calories?
Yeah, it's looking a little bit like this. I mean, you've heard processed foods are bad for you, right? And it's sort of not clear always what that means. But this study, I think, drove it home for me in a way that I hadn't understood before. Same number of calories, same amount of protein, same amount of fat, same amount of carbohydrate in these 2 different meals that are taken at different times, but in the same people. And when people are eating the processed food version of that, they gain about 2.2 pounds more than they do when they're eating unprocessed foods, even though it's the same number of calories. And the mechanism seems to be that it messes with people's hormones. The processed foods seem to have some toxins in them that make it so your body's hormones don't exactly know what to do with the food, and so they don't put it away properly, and they end up storing it as fat when otherwise it would be burned.
Wow, so something about the way your body actually breaks it down.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the breakdown. So the calories are being used differently by your body. And so if you're somebody that's, I guess all of us are always trying to make sure we don't gain too much weight, but this is really helpful. It's another incentive to stay away from the processed foods and go for the healthy fruits and veg and fish and eggs and stuff like that.
Well, from something that will From food to something that'll make you want to eat a lot of food, cannabis. And there's a new review that says that stronger weed might actually carry stronger risks. Help us understand this.
Yeah, so, I mean, there's been a lot of really great science that shows that, that marijuana and THC and cannabis can actually be helpful when it comes to a lot of problems people have, like insomnia or chronic pain. But those studies usually involve small doses, and a lot of people tend, when they're buying it recreationally, to buy the really strong stuff. And this is a study that tries to reconcile whether the risks are the same. And what they find is that it actually paints a pretty different picture. When people are taking the stronger stuff, there are more incidences of psychosis, schizophrenia, and addiction than there are when you see people taking the smaller doses. So if you see something in the news that's saying, oh, you know, this has been found to be helpful for people that are having insomnia, just keep in mind that's a low dose in all likelihood, not the really strong stuff. And if you're buying stuff yourself, look for the smaller dose. That might be the safer way to go.
Very good to know.
All right, finally, mystery solved. Apparently, we learned more about ballistic tongues.
Ballistic tongues.
Yeah, what is this about?
This is so. So a ballistic tongue is some of those animals, like chameleons, that can shoot their tongue out like a bow and arrow. The question is, how do you do that with a mussel? How do you throw with a mussel? Mussel can only contract, but these things are firing their tongues, and the accelerations of these tongues, like when you talk about a spaceship, people talk about going like 6 Gs, 7 Gs, a race car's 10 Gs. These are over 500 Gs. And it turns out the mechanism is that there's a stick inside the tongue that's being squeezed by a muscle. And you know when you squeeze a bar of soap and it goes shooting out of your hands? Right. That's how the tongue works. It squeezes, the muscles around the tongue squeeze this stick that's inside it, and it goes flying out.
Thank goodness
Mystery
we know.
solved, yeah.
This is going to change everything.
You guys joke, but this is really cool. And those accelerations are the highest in any vertebrate. So it's pretty exciting science. I really like this study.
CTV Science and Tech Specialist Dan Riskin. It's always a slice. Have a great week.
Thank you,
Dan. Well, to Scarborough-Rouge Park now, where some residents say they have mounting concerns about the maintenance of their waterfront.
With just 3 weeks to go before the by-election for the ward's council seat, one candidate says Scarborough's beach deserves better.
At the foot of the Rouge River, one of Scarborough's most scenic spots. Rouge Beach is a gateway to the beauty and biodiversity of the national park.
There's a lot of history here. Things like this, the railroad bridge. You have a wonderful mixed community of plant and animal species here.
But some residents worry the neighborhood gem is losing its shine.
People dumping their big black bags of garbage you have at home that you put up with the garbage man beside, all up there. Yeah, it's sad just the way everything's mistreated.
From garbage in the park to a lack of proper amenities, the state of Rouge Beach has become a campaign issue for Reza Kostel, who is running in the municipal by-election for Scarborough-Rouge Park.
It's just a real eyesore. It's not a welcoming place. You go to other parts of Toronto, Lakeshore, and it's much nicer, much more clean.
Kostel calling on Parks Canada for better maintenance and more parking here. A surge of visitors on weekends often forces cars out into the neighborhood.
People will park on this street right over here, and sometimes they even park in front of residences' driveways. And as you can tell, it's a narrow street to begin with, so there's a lot of safety hazards.
Kostel advocating for more permanent washrooms to replace the porta potties that have been in place for more than a year after the previous restrooms were removed.
This is a real issue, obviously for many reasons. It's unsanitary, it's unkept. Folks who have accessibility issues cannot use these washrooms.
Kostel's message, Scarborough is getting the short end of the stick.
As residents, we feel like we're not important, like we don't matter. You know, these are the basics, really.
We should have people patrolling these beaches because this is people's paradise, you know what I mean? A lot of people spend their hard paying taxes and stuff here.
Taxes that some Scarborough residents say aren't being spent to protect this national park, their local treasure. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
It's time now for the return of our Monday segment, Chronically Online. And for the occasion, we are joined by Sam East, host of 99.9 Virgin Radio. Sam, you look ravishing. How was your summer?
Oh, it's been amazing, but I'm happy to be back chatting with you about all things trending online.
Yes, and let's just talk about TIFF because it's in full form, busy weekend. This is the 50th year for the festival. And there's a moment getting international attention, which happens to be between 99.9 Virgin Radio's kid reporter and the one and only Ryan Reynolds.
Yes, if you've happened to catch some clips of our very own kid reporter, Darren and Deepa, on our morning show, have recruited 9-year-old Liam to talk to all the stars, and they're just charmed by him. A lot of the times the stars will kind of whisk by, but with Liam, they give him the time of day, including this moment that he had with Ryan Reynolds that is making international headlines now. Have a listen to this.
Today that you gave to...
What's going on? What's your question for me?
Hi, Ryan. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Let's skip to the question.
Why is there so much Chipotle mayo on your Tim Hortons breakfast?
Oh my gosh. You know what? I wish I had some control over that. But you know what I can do? I can send a strongly worded letter to the chef over at Tim Hortons. Okay. Consider it done, young man. What's your name?
Liam.
Liam? Okay, Liam. I'll make it downright vicious. Okay. But I'm gonna just say it's from you. Unbelievable.
Now, this clip is making headlines all over the world, going viral now, saying that Ryan Reynolds was being rude and condescending to our very own kid reporter, Liam. But now that you have the entirety of the clip, you didn't just catch that first, 5 to 10 seconds. Michelle, what do you think? How do you think Ryan was conducting himself with our kid reporter?
I think that's an unfair assessment. Only because, as someone who's been on those red carpets at Roy Thompson Hall, Ryan is trying to, do some publicity for his movie, but they also have PR people trying to get him to go in because the screening has to start and they have to sit down there. So I'm sure he knew he had to go, but he wanted to get that one in real quick. Guaranteed. Exactly. And it was nice to see our CTV News blinged out mic flag there, too, in that shot.
Oh, absolutely. Got to get that in there. I think it was, as you said, taken out of context there. People love to kind of get that quick little soundbite and then run with it. Hopefully more people start watching the whole clip. But for you and I right here, we're setting the story straight. I think Ryan and Liam had some nice rapport going on.
Oh, I think it was a class act, and so good for Liam to get that clip. That's lovely. Let's talk about another story that has had many talking, and it involves a stolen baseball.
Oh, my goodness. If you were online even for a couple minutes over the past weekend, you saw this moment at a Phillies game. So take a look at this, and you can judge for yourself as well.
Harrison Bader in the 4th inning. Now, I want you to check out where this ball lands, Ben Davis. Left field, and some Phillies fans are going to grapple for the ball. Guy in the red T-shirt right there comes up with it.
Okay, so you see, as per usual, when a ball goes out into the crowd like that, people are scrambling to get it. There's a beautiful moment where a father gets the ball. He runs over to his son, hands it over. They're having this moment, and this woman charges over and demands that she gets the ball back. Of course, lots of people weighing in online and naming her some very unsavory things, that is for sure. But it all worked out in the end because for this kid, the Phillies organization came forward, gave him some more merch, and he even got to go and meet some of the players, get a signed baseball bat. So was that moment, the best luck for them? It did turn out so in the end, it looks like.
I think my kids would call that woman a Karen. I hear.
Yes.
But you got to know when you're at a baseball game, your behavior could be on camera, and it's just not a good look, even if you really want that ball. Well, good thing for the little young man, though, too.
Yes, there are some shots that we absolutely cannot show on daytime television where she's giving some other reactions, so I'm sure there will continue to be fallout from this one incident.
Oh, no. You're an adult. Be better than that. Okay, Sammy's, host of 99.9 Virgin Radio. We're caught up. We appreciate it. You can catch your show from 2 to 5. Take care.
Thanks, Michelle.
Well, excellence in the Black community is being honored today.
A special brunch was held this morning. CTV's Andrea Case has the details.
Unbothered, like our ancestors did, still we rise.
The 3rd annual Black Excellence Brunch held at RBC House and sponsored by Tourism Jamaica honored those who are making a difference in the film world right here at home. Marcia John Greenwood is the VP of People and Culture for TIFF.
Creating room and space for our community to come together allows them to, fulfill and ideate and think about the things that they've been had in their head, but can actually share it.
One of those recognized, Planet Africa, 30 years ago, the event, platform, and party was started to give the community a home.
It's everything. You know, as a black filmmaker, you want to see your peers, you want to celebrate your peers, you want to see your friends, get a chance to just reconnect with them and celebrate, lift them up. So that's why I always come.
Director Hubert Davis's film Youngblood had its world premiere at TIFF on the weekend. The Black Excellence Brunch is a much sought-after ticket. It gives people a chance to mix and mingle and have a bit of a party early in the morning. But perhaps the contacts they make, the friendships they build, will lead to work in the industry one day. Andrea Case, CTV News.
A surprise visitor has wandered into a suburb of an Austrian city and doesn't seem to be in any hurry to leave. Emil the Moose first showed up in a northeastern province nearly 3 weeks ago, and this weekend he was spotted in the city of St. Polten. Sightings of this animal have drawn curious onlookers, but wildlife officials are urging people to avoid feeding him or even approaching for photos and videos. Moose definitely aren't native to Austria, and it's believed Emil came from Poland via the Czech Republic, Austria's northern neighbor.
Obviously not one of our moose. Ours are huge.
No.
You don't need to warn us to not approach.
No, that would be a long journey from here, too.
Very long journey. All right, where are we journeying weather-wise?
Okay.
More sunshine?
More sunshine this afternoon. Comfortable temperatures, maybe a little below seasonal for a daytime high today, just by a couple of degrees. Here's one more look at what we can expect overnight tonight, and that is the potential for frost for areas north and east of the GTA. We shouldn't be quite as cool for that here in Toronto, but our forecast overnight low is 9. You need cool temperatures, calm winds, and clear skies in order to get frost. And again, many communities will have that. Tomorrow's forecast daytime high a little warmer than today at 23 degrees on the warm side of seasonal. What a great looking couple of days for getting out and enjoying the Toronto International Film Festival. Look at all that sunshine. 25 degrees by Wednesday. Slightly cooler heading into the weekend with a bit of an increase in cloud, chance of showers into the day on Sunday. Nathan and Michelle.
Thank you, Lindsay. And that is CTV News at noon. Remember, you can get Toronto's breaking news all day long on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and all of us here, have a pleasant afternoon. I'm Michelle Dubé.
And I'm Nathan Downer. Be sure to join us later for CTV News at 5 and 6. Have a great afternoon.